The deadliest inventions in historic homes. They told us the home was a sanctuary, a place of warmth, comfort, and safety, where danger stayed outside and peace lived within. But what if I told you that this was the greatest illusion of all? During the Victorian and Edwardian eras, people welcomed science and innovation into their homes with open arms. Electricity, gas, chemicals, machines. They were seen as progress. But many of these inventions came with a hidden cost. These new conveniences weren't intruders. They were invited in, sold to families as miracles, promoted in journals, endorsed by celebrities. They came in beautiful packaging, with bold promises, and they quietly killed. From the clothes on your back to the water in your bath, from the wallpaper on your walls to the food on your plate, danger was everywhere. But no one knew, because no one questioned comfort. This is not just a story of invention. It's a story of blindness, of belief, and of lives lost in the name of convenience. This is the story of how progress nearly killed an entire generation. In their own homes. This is Hidden Killers, the deadliest inventions in historic homes. The illusion of safety. To the Victorians, home was a symbol of triumph, a personal fortress built to shield the family from the chaos of the industrial world outside. It looked clean, it looked calm, it looked safe. Inside, science and progress promised modern living, better hygiene, easier cooking, more leisure. But in truth, they brought an invisible army of threats hiding in every corner, disguised as comfort. Imagine leaning too close to a fireplace and watching your dress go up in flames. Imagine sipping milk sweetened with borax, or sleeping beside wallpaper laced with arsenic. These were not fantasies, they were everyday life. The very things that made the home feel safe, the warmth, the cleanliness, the elegance, were the very things that made it dangerous. No alarms, no manuals, no regulations. No one warned them because no one knew. And those who suffered often suffered in silence. White bread and hidden poison. In the Victorian mind, white bread was the mark of purity, civility, and class. The whiter the loaf, the more refined the home. But natural flour was never that white. So bakers added alum, a chemical whitener more suited for industry than kitchens. Others went further, mixing in plaster of Paris or bean flour, trading health for appearance and calling it perfection. To the average family, it looked like progress. In truth, it was poison baked into tradition. Deadly design. The beauty of Victorian architecture concealed its cruelty. Houses were not built for safety. They were built for symmetry and show. Staircases were steep, winding, and often narrower than the human foot. Women in floor-length skirts had to turn sideways just to descend. Falling was common, fatal even, but no one spoke of it. Beauty excused everything. The gas-powered bath. Running hot water was once a luxury until the gas-powered bath brought it home, but it also brought danger. Hidden pipes carried gas beneath the tub. A single leak could fill the air with silent death. There were no detectors, no warning signs, just a breath, and then nothing. Crushing dangers. For Victorian women, doing the laundry was not just exhausting, it was dangerous. Wet clothes had to be wrung out by hand until one invention promised relief: the Mangle. This large roller machine used gears and cranks to squeeze water out of heavy fabric, but it had no safety mechanism, just raw force and exposed machinery. One slip, and your fingers or your entire arm could be crushed beyond repair. and for many, that's exactly what happened. But no regulation came. Because the mangle wasn't optional, it was essential, and injuries became part of the household routine. Toxic cleanliness. Victorians idolized cleanliness. To be clean was to be moral, modern, respectable, and that made them vulnerable to one of the deadliest dangers of all: household cleaning chemicals. These substances weren't just strong, they were lethal, but they came in boxes and bottles that looked nearly identical to food and medicine. There were no safety warnings, no ingredient lists, and no way to know you'd made a mistake until someone got sick or died. Celluloid combustion. To replace ivory, a miracle plastic was invented: celluloid. It was used in combs, toys, jewelry, and it was beautiful. But it was also unstable. As it aged, it released flammable gases. In the right conditions, it could ignite without warning. Children's toys exploded, pockets caught fire, and homes were destroyed because no one knew this miracle material was actually a fire hazard. Shocking developments. Electricity entered the home as a symbol of sophistication, but early systems were ungrounded, inconsistent, and dangerously experimental. Each neighborhood used different voltages. Anyone could wire their own home, and anyone, including children, could touch live current. There were fires, deaths. Even one of Edison's own engineers electrocuted himself. But still, there were no regulations. The asbestos epidemic. There was a time when asbestos was praised as a miracle. It was fireproof, durable, and seemingly perfect for the growing demands of industrial life and domestic safety. Asbestos found its way into ceilings, walls, floor tiles, even ironing boards. Families believed it protected them from fire. In truth, they were inhaling poison. The fibers were invisible, indestructible, and deadly. Once inhaled, they lodged deep in the lungs. Over time, they triggered a slow, irreversible decay. By the time symptoms appeared, it was often too late. The disease mesothelioma was almost always fatal. And yet the exposure continued for decades. Few questioned it. It was government-approved, factory-tested. In homes and schools across the nation, people were dying quietly under a blanket of dust. Fridge failures. Before the refrigerator, food was stored in wooden boxes packed with Arctic ice. But ice melted fast, and so the race began to create mechanical cold. The first electric fridges used chemicals like methyl chloride, ammonia, and sulfur dioxide. All were toxic, some were explosive, and homes had no warning systems. In the wrong hands or the wrong kitchen, these early fridges weren't cold miracles. They were silent killers. The radium beauty myth. In the early 20th century, radium was a wonder element. It glowed in the dark. It energized water. It promised youth and vitality, and it was sold to women everywhere. But behind the glow was radiation, real, lethal radiation that damaged cells, ate through bone, and gave rise to a new form of death slow, internal, unstoppable. Scientists who made radium took precautions. The workers who packaged it did not. Many of them died with glowing teeth and fractured skulls. The sugar trap. Sweets were once a rare luxury. But when sugar became cheap thanks to empire and slave labor, it flooded Victorian homes and rewrote the diet forever. Refined sugar replaced meat and vegetables in many homes. It was addictive, cheap, and devastating to teeth and health. No one knew it was an addiction. They just knew it made them feel better. Until it didn't. fires and chimneys. Victorian homes ran on coal. It heated water, cooked meals, and burned hotter than brick chimneys could handle. Many chimneys weren't reinforced. The mortar crumbled. Fires spread. Whole towns burned because a family wanted warmth. No one blamed the coal. They blamed fate and carelessness. But the truth was structural and deadly. Misguided medicine. In the absence of understanding, the Victorians turned to anything labeled as cure, especially for syphilis, their favorite. Mercury. Mercury was applied to skin, injected, or even vaporized and inhaled. It caused madness, tremors, and death, but was seen as salvation. Most who recovered had never been sick. Their symptoms were just the first stage destined to return. Modern killers in the home. After World War II, the age of convenience exploded. Synthetic fabrics, electric blankets, chemistry sets. They brought wonder and risk into every home. Carbon monoxide from gas heaters killed thousands. Electric shocks from faulty irons claimed lives. But the packaging looked so clean, so safe. Comfort, once again, had become a killer, and history was repeating itself in silence. Hidden killers. They didn't know. The families who sat around dinner tables, the mothers who lit gas lamps with love, the children who played beneath poison ceilings. They trusted their homes. They trusted progress. They trusted safety. But history has shown us, even comfort carries danger. Even miracles can cast shadows. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing in a home is the thing you never question. We don't tell these stories to frighten you. We tell them so we remember. So we don't forget the price paid in silence by those who believed they were safe. Because danger doesn't always knock. Sometimes it's already inside, tucked neatly on a shelf, sewn into your clothes, or piped into your bath. If this story moved you, if it made you look differently at the everyday, then don't let it end here. Subscribe for more stories that history left behind. The forgotten, the hidden, the hauntingly real. This is not just the past. It's a mirror, and you're standing in front of it.
More stories they tried to erase.